Hey guys, RanterInShades here, exercising my first memorites vlog style. It's been a while, I know. I've just been busy with personal life shit, such as this radio internship I somehow got hooked up with, as well as helping produce for Malicious Pacifism, which is the extreme metal project of my good friend Cult of Clusterfuck. I'm producing for them, and they just released their first song, Saccharin, the other day, so go check that out. Link is in the description. Other than that, my little brother just graduated high school, so that's been taking up a good bit of time, and I've also been continually messaging my pals in GOA and planning for the coming future. Other than that, there's no real excuse. I've been pretty goddamn lazy these past few weeks as far as videos go. I do have plenty of ideas for future videos, so don't you worry about that. But you didn't click on this video wanting to hear about all that. Maybe you did. Who knows? But with all that in mind, I figured for this video, I'd make a little FAQ video about my What's Wrong With series, since a number of you guys like to suggest bands for that series, most of which I do intend to go over. This video is going to explain my criteria and process of choosing bands for the series. As you guys know, the premise of this series is discussing a particular band or artist that gets a lot of heat to the point where it kind of sounds unfair. What's Wrong With is all about showcasing perspectives and asking questions. The structure of videos in the series involves explaining what I personally like about the band in the first half, and debunking common criticisms in the second half, all leading to the question I ask at the end of every video: what's wrong with this band? The main criteria the band in question must meet is that they are bashed a good deal, whether it be on the internet or in real life. I also need to be familiar with the band to a degree, and be into their music enough so that I can bring as accurate of information as I can to the table as I showcase those perspectives and ask those questions. Every band I've discussed in this series I'm a fan of to varying degrees. I feel if I were to talk about a band I'm not into or know very little about them, I wouldn't be making as accurate of points and it wouldn't make for a very good video. An example of this would be Black Veil Brides. Do I think they're a good band? They're decent, but I'm not really a fan of them. So despite me thinking a lot of the shit they get is, for the most part, pretty unnecessary, I don't feel I'm the best person to make a video defending them. The main thing that's important to note when choosing bands for this series is how much there is for me to work with. I don't see much of a point in making a What's Wrong With for a band and only having one piece of common criticism to work with. Now I know some of you are probably thinking, but Shades, in your What's Wrong With about Stryper, the only flack you debunked there was about Christianity. That's true. But religion in music, in my opinion, is big enough of a concept that can pretty much build what is essentially a What's Wrong With. And since Stryper is one of my favorite bands that just happens to incorporate Christian themes into their music, I decided to mainly focus on them. Especially since I've even seen some glam fans complain about Stryper being Christian. But other than that, I like to have more to work with for a band than just one main point. To me, it seems pointless to discuss a band when the only main thing I'm debunking is the fact that they're popular. Lots of bands are popular and have wide audiences. If I made a What's Wrong With on every band that's popular to varying degrees, that would take forever to do, especially given all the music I know. For that very reason, I have a video on one of my other series, Word Analysis, talking about the word mainstream, where I discuss this complaint that applies to so much music out there. So if you watch that video, you can apply it to just about any band that's moderately successful. I remember one person suggesting I make a What's Wrong With on Buckcherry. Now, as much as I like Buckcherry, I've never really seen much that's been said against them, or at least much that's significant. If all I have to work with for Buckcherry is them being well known, what would be the point in discussing them? Same applies if the only thing I have to work with is their genre, or that they're from a certain decade. What would be the point in me making a What's Wrong With about a band like Killswitch Engage just because they're a metalcore band? My first Metal Elitist video is pretty much all about that. What would be the point of making a What's Wrong With about a band like The Darkness just because they're a modern band? That seems like more of a concept for a word analysis about the word modern, which I do intend on possibly making. I also don't want to make a What's Wrong With on a band if the only common criticism I'm working with is about one song or one album. There was a time when I was thinking of making a What's Wrong With on Warrant, but I decided not to make one on them because the main reason people bashed Warrant at all is because of the song Cherry Pie. Is Warrant a good band? In my opinion, yes. Is Cherry Pie a bad song? Not really, it's not my favorite of theirs, and I do think they have much better songs in their catalog, but the point is, I can't base an entire video off of just that one point. Same thing if I were to make a What's Wrong With on Celtic Frost, since people bash their album Cold Lake. Now, for one, I don't see people really bashing on Celtic Frost as a whole, even if it is just based around Cold Lake. Do I think Cold Lake is a shitty album? Yes. Yes, I do. Me being a glam nerd, I was curious to know what the album sounded like, and I ended up being bored out of my fucking mind. Fuck Cold Lake. Point is, every band I've talked about in this series so far, as well as all the bands I intend to make videos on for the series, I've had plenty to work with. If you guys want to suggest bands for me to cover in the What's Wrong With series, your input is always appreciated. If I feel the band you are suggesting does get a lot of unfair heat, or if you can provide some examples on what problems people have with them, then I will consider making a What's Wrong With about them. Because they have to, at the very least, fit that main criteria I talked about earlier in this video, them being bashed a fair amount. So that's my criteria on how I choose bands to talk about for the What's Wrong With series. I hope this helps when thinking of bands to suggest for me to discuss in this series. Thank you for watching this video, take care, and have a nice day. I'm Shades, and I'll see you next time.